Welcome back to the BTS Happy Hour podcast. I'm your host, Andrea. With me today is Morgan.
Hey, what's up?
Recently, media outlets have been reporting on the growth of K-pop songs that are in English and how they're getting popular in the West. And songs like Dynamite, which are getting to the number one in the Billboard Hot 100, and Ice Cream did well, and some other songs Super M had recently that were popular. So some netizens are starting to worry about losing K-pop or losing K-pop as being a Korean music genre. So I guess they're kind of worried that music will keep going in that direction of, now they're going to want to produce more or all English songs and then kind of like leave Korean music behind. I don't know if that's a really valid concern or they're just kind of like worried because they don't want to lose their favorite groups that are, performing in Korea all the time.
Right.
I don't think it's a huge concern. I think they're just trying to... It's only a couple of songs that made it big. Like, I know BTS makes it look pretty easy with Dynamite. Like, they got number one and they got a lot of attention and recognition for that. And, Blackpink is big and some other groups. But it's not that easy to do it. So I don't think that's going to be a formula you could just repeat with everybody else.
Well, I think it is fair to say that, obviously, we've been talking about this. Companies are trying to branch out into this market. This is the market that they need to expand into. So you're going to see more of this. Whether they succeed or not is irrelevant. They're going to try. Big companies, small companies alike. It kind of makes me laugh that they would be so guarded about this. First of all, it's always been sort of a bastard art, right? I mean, even when K-pop started, it was half Korean, half English. I was like, why is there so much English? But you know why there is. It's because so much K-pop influence comes from American pop music. It's not like this stuff. I'm not accusing them of appropriating anything or stealing anything or being totally unoriginal. But let's call a spade a spade. They are heavily influenced by pop music from the West. There's nothing wrong with that. They sort of put their own spin on it, made it into their own, but that's why there's so much English in it, and that's why it resembles Western pop music in so many ways. And now it's just coming full circle. Now they're coming back to dominate in the West. But is that a bad thing? And are you actually losing anything? I would argue that you're sort of going back to the roots of that thing. As far as ideological purity, I don't think that you're being more pure by maintaining 60% Korean lyrics. How is that more pure?
It's not like up until 2020, it was 100% Korean lyrics all this time.
No.
It was always somewhat of a mix. It's just that they're making more of an effort to do, let's have an entire song that's in English and release that. But they've been doing that anyway for Japan. And so it's just like, the US is another market that they're reaching out to. I don't think that means we're going to do all English albums from now on, though.
I'm not totally familiar with all the history of K-pop, but most people, they agree that it sort of began. Korean music was very traditional and static up until the early 90s, right? And then there was Seotaeji, and then they sort of had a 90s hip-hop influence. Is it good? Yeah, it's good because they have something extra to offer. They're improving. I would say they're improving Western music at a time where Western music is at a lull, where the quality is kind of at sort of a nadir, But you shouldn't feel like you have lost anything. To be blunt, you never really owned it whole cloth in the first place, right? Mm-hmm. It was always sort of a Western art that you put a twist on it. You're sort of like a Mexican restaurant in New York. I'm not saying the food is bad. The food very well could be good and maybe even better than what you get in traditional Mexican cuisine. But you have to acknowledge where you got it from. And I'm not even saying that you're appropriating it and you shouldn't be doing it. But just because you're going back and branching out doesn't mean you're losing the New Yorkness of it, right? I mean, the majority of it was foreign cuisine. So it was never a uniquely Korean thing.
And I do think the recent English K-pop songs, it was English for a strategic reason. They were trying to get played on the radio, but I don't think that means our next album's going to be all English, because they don't want to record everything and learn everything in just English. Right. They're still wanting to do everything in Korean because that they know that best, and that's what they're most comfortable writing music in that language.
So yeah, and they should feel comforted in that. If most of these artists don't speak English, of course they're not going to want to record only English songs constantly. They're still going to want to do mostly Korean lyrics, right? So that's just by nature of them being native speakers. So it's never going to be losing that Korean aspect of it.
Yeah, I think they're just using these English songs to just get everybody's attention at certain times. And part of it is too the pandemics. Like they can't make tons of money from touring in different places, so they need to make very like wide appeal songs like that. Okay, so the West will listen to things that are in English, and because you have to make money from selling songs and selling the singles and everything rather than concert sales. So I think that's like maybe one of the reasons why there's been a bunch of English songs recently. And the other thing is it's like it's not a guarantee. You make a song in English, that's it's automatically going to be like number one. Like Twice did More and More, and I don't think it did that well just in sales or whatever. It was like good and people liked it, but it didn't like make a huge impact or anything. So I don't think it might be a while before Twice tries another all English song, or they'll just do it every like once in a while. And the other thing that the netizens were concerned about is like losing, all the great choreography that our K-pop groups are known for. But
Why would they lose that? Why would they lose that?
I guess they think that the West doesn't care as much about that. But I don't think that if there's less complicated choreography now, I don't think it's because of Western audiences. That's more because of TikTok and wanting to have, something go TikTok viral. So that's the reason for some dances being more simplified. It's not because like, we got to dilute this aspect of K-pop to make it more popular elsewhere.
Oh yeah, I don't agree I don't agree because I think that the companies know that having amazing choreography and just putting that work in is part of why this has such an appeal. I don't think that, does anyone believe that the appeal is just that it's Korean? Why would that be the case? I don't think so. Right? People are catching on to how much work they put into it. So I don't think they're going to stop that. And it's not in their nature to stop that. Why would they just let up and say, we're in the new market where they don't expect as much out of us, so I guess we can just let up and not try as hard. Yeah, that doesn't seem like what any executive in any K-pop company would say. So don't worry about that.
So I think that songs are going to continue to be recorded primarily in Korean. And the one thing I would point to as evidence for that is how Big Hit keeps promoting their like Learn Korean with BTS materials. Like they have books and courses and videos for that because clearly they want the international audience to know Korean rather than them have to learn all English. So I think they're trying to bridge the gap there by, it's like, well, we're going to still sing in Korean, so hopefully you guys can learn some and understand what we're saying a little better. And
I don't think they're doing it so they could understand the lyrics. I think there's just a demand for it that has sprouted from people's interest in K-pop.
Yeah.
I don't think that I don't think they're saying, hey, just learn our language instead.
But fans are seeking out, let me learn Korean, because you have to wait for subtitles sometimes for videos, and sometimes that's a hassle. So I think they're like, let's take advantage of that since we have so many like multimedia with BTS, and we could just create materials for people learning the language. But yeah, it also shows that it's like they're going to keep speaking and singing in Korean too. I don't think they're like ordering us like, oh, by the way, you better learn this or else. But they're saying, just if you want to learn it, here it is. So the Jin fans are back to work again. Yeah,
good. I saw.
This was, since Dynamite has come out, the Jin fans have been upset about Jin's line distribution and a couple other grievances that they've had. And we heard that they sent one truck a couple weeks ago, and apparently up to this point, now there's been a fourth truck that's been driving around. And I didn't know that they were that upset about it. I thought after the one truck, it was like, okay, issue's over with. They got it out of their system, and but it's not out of their system. They're still sending it, and apparently there's different groups of Jin fans too. One was a truck sent by Jin's Chinese fans. They had their own truck, and then some other trucks.
They have a lot of money in China.
It says in this article, the Jin Chinese fandom protest truck says, "We always support you. Kim Seok Jin has beautiful vocals. Kim Seok Jin should be treated equally. Kim Seok Jin is very precious to us. So they're just kind of saying like general positive things about him. And I think the other trucks had more details. It was like Moon got number 4 on the Rolling Stone list of boy band songs.
They tried to win with a rational argument.
Yeah, they had a different strategy in mind.
Right. I think that, I don't know how effective any of them are, but I don't think having a rational argument is more effective at all.
Right.
Yeah,
you're not making a case here.
I don't think the executives will walk by and say, "Oh gosh, you know what? We didn't know that. We didn't know that about our own company. Let's change our policies and let's give him more lines."
It's like this truck made a good point.
Right. I wasn't aware about those statistics that are probably in all of our ledgers. Of course they know. They know it better than you. You're not going to sway them that way. You're not going to sway them. But I am still impressed that they're doing this. How much money does it cost? It costs money to rent these trucks.
Yeah.
I would say at least a few $100s a day.
It's definitely expensive. And then they've pooled their money, and who knows how much time of the day they're driving around with these messages on there.
But then again, the fandom is huge. So yeah, I don't doubt that they have the money.
Did you know the Jin fans online, they call themselves Jin Cult?
Okay, well,
so that's...
Yeah, individual stands, I don't know.
So as far as we know, Big Hit hasn't noticed or commented on the Jin trucks that they've seen. I'm sure they've seen all 4 of them, and since they are circling around the headquarters and everything. Although it was funny in the article, it was like allegedly Big Hit employee taking a picture of one of the vans or one of the trucks.
Yeah, just for fun. I mean, if you were at work and something funny like that happened, you take a picture.
Yeah, that must be pretty funny. You're just a Big Hit accountant or something, and it's like
they're laughing at it behind the scenes. They're not they're not taking it seriously. They're laughing at it.
It's like, there's another truck outside, guys. Yeah. Let me go take a picture.
Right. It's just a funny thing to them.
Yeah, and one of the things they mentioned is that Jin has to go to the military soon, so it's even more important to give him more lines and more consideration.
Well, but you see, that's where they don't know. That's where they're not in the know. They don't know that there's things in the works. Yeah. They got the postponement going, and then after that, they probably have something more permanent going. Just trust me, something is in the works.
They need to send these trucks to the people in government. It's like, hey, give them an exemption.
Right.
That's where you need to send trucks.
You need to send your pool. Yeah, exactly. If you're a BTS fan, here's what you need to do. Don't send stupid trucks over there. Don't do any other crazy sort of things. If you want to be most helpful, here's what you should do. Send campaign contributions to politicians and say specifically, I want you to change the law so BTS gets an exemption.
Oh, yeah, that would be effective.
Because money talks in politics, end of story. We all know that's the case.
They will listen to someone who donates money to a campaign.
Normally I would say, well, but politics is big money, so your few dollars is not going to move the needle at all. But apparently, it's not just a few dollars with these BTS fans. They're hiring trucks, they're, flying on airplanes and this and that. So better use for your money.
I think that would be really powerful if, however, thousands of BTS fans sent money to their local representative.
A petition or online, or you making a comment online. I'm not going to say it doesn't matter at all, but it matters very little in the grand scheme of things. You know what does matter to a politician? Money. And it also is indicative of a level of commitment that, just online activism, online, you're just putting out your opinion out there. Anybody can click a button. Anybody can repost something. But how many people send money into politics to get their way? Not that many. Ask yourself, do you want an exemption or do you want Jin to have more lyrics?
Right. Would you rather he's gone for 18 months? That's not good.
Right. Do you want BTS to have a missing member or so for like 4 years?
We know ARMY is capable of organizing themselves to fundraise a lot of money at a time.
Right.
They've done that for many causes and, some political causes,
what you need to do
other things.
Is do a GoFundMe. Literally just do a GoFundMe. And then I don't know exactly there's campaign finance laws, I'm sure, in Korea, but raise money and just say, hey, this money here, it's for politicians willing to give them an exemption. Who wants it?
Somebody should form a super PAC.
Yeah, who wants it? Exactly.
This money will go to those people that support that.
I'm not sure they have PACs.
They must have something like that. Some kind of whatever organization that it's like, okay, this batch of money is for this cause.
We're not sure that those things exist in Korea. There may be no limits on campaign finance contributions. So there may be no need for PACs. Raise a bunch of money, say, here's the money. It's here for any politician who pledges to fix this law.
Somebody in Korea probably needs to be the one to start it, because then it's like, the people there speaking, basically.
And I don't even think that it will look bad for a Korean politician to say, yeah, I'm one of those people. Politicians don't generally, in order to get your money, change their opinions and say, well, I believe something else, but now I believe whatever you want to believe because you have money. No, generally what it is they believe whatever they want to believe, and then they go to the people who have money who believe the same things and are in alignment, and then they fund them. But what this does is you give strength and you empower those people who already believed as you believe. People think what they think. They don't change what they think, but they just go to the special interests that already agree with them and get money from them.
I don't know why Army hasn't done this yet. I think it's because, we got to stay out of the business of Korean government and we need to just keep quiet about all that. It's like, no, you need to just like be vocal, and if that's what you want,
There's no reason they shouldn't create a lobby. I know it sounds frivolous maybe and dumb, but I don't know. It probably sounds frivolous and dumb to hire a truck a whole week in a row. But, you're doing it, so you may as well spend this money in more productive ways and put it towards achieving the most important thing for you guys, which is exemption.
Lori Hill is a YouTuber, and her channel is where she breaks down plastic surgeries that she thinks celebrities have had. And the goal of this channel is not to drag them or shame them, but basically to educate people on what plastic surgery is out there and help people learn about it and try to remove the secrecy behind plastic surgery, because people are always talking about it and maybe they don't know for sure, and it's more of something that's gossiped about. But since I don't know how she's exactly an expert. I think she's had plastic surgery, or is very knowledgeable about it, and that's why she has this channel. She's not a doctor, but she is very familiar with all types of plastic surgery, and she uses photos from before and after to be able to justify why she thinks someone had that kind of surgery or not. So recently she did a video on Lisa from Blackpink, and so this caused a lot of conversation among fans, and she even had a warning at the beginning of it that this is just for educational purposes, so anyone who's sending threats, they're going to be reported. So it's like she knew like some of the fans were going to come after her just for making this video. So she started off with, okay, Lisa, she has some natural beauty traits, which is her smile and her large eyes and her smooth and glowing skin. And after that, she talked about how she thinks Lisa got multiple eye surgeries and multiple nose surgeries, and she got lip corner surgery and a chin implant. And
yeah, okay.
Yeah, she went into a lot of detail showing with the pictures, and it's like, oh, okay, I could see what you're saying there. Like her chin was like further back in one picture, and then later on it was like more in proportion. It was like more forward. So I was like, okay, I could see how that probably happened.
Right.
And so she went through all of the things that she thinks Lisa had done, and at the very end of it, she totals it up, and she said, if Lisa got all the things I thought, then it's added up to a total of $39,900.
Yeah,
so
it's not too bad, honestly.
Yeah, and apparently what cost the most is how, if this happened, Lisa needed to have her nose done multiple times. Lori Hill thinks that she got an implant in there and she had her nose redone a couple of times, and it may have been a very difficult kind of surgery to get it just right. So that's what she thinks happened. And she also goes through, and this is probably just to defeat any other arguments of like, well, maybe just the angle of that photo or this and that. She talks about, could these other factors explain any of the changes? And she said the changes aren't different because of contoured makeup, because she doesn't usually use that kind of makeup. And it can't be explained because of puberty, and it can't be explained because of she didn't grow yet. because she'd used pictures after age 16 for the befores, and then for afters is like, you know, more present day. So all of that would have already had an effect for the before photos. So I think the photos she used, you could really see a difference in Lisa's face. Like I wasn't that familiar with her, how she looked pre-debut.
Yeah, I've seen it.
She looked very different.
I've seen them before this video too.
You
could look different.
You could tell it's still her. Like I think the eyes are pretty similar and her smile, but you could tell that there has to have been something done because she looked very different before and after. And she wasn't sure if any skin lightening happened, but probably that did happen because
her skin is lighter.
Yeah, she was much darker in the before pictures. So Blackpink has said that YG prohibits cosmetic surgeries.
They all do.
I mean, it's like, okay, you guys say that, but how come like so many people have clearly gotten plastic surgery? Like not just YG, but it's like many companies. So I think that's just something they say, and then some whatever percentage of fans just believe that right off the bat and then don't question it any further. But I mean, it's pretty clear that surgeries are allowed, and I don't know if it's like, well, you got to get permission from YG first, or if it's how it works. But there's people that have gotten surgeries.
Of course there are.
You can see it. It even makes sense that they would, because if you think about the formation of Blackpink, YG, they disbanded 21 and then they created Blackpink. So it kind of seems like they created Blackpink to be the replacement girl group, except that we know they wanted, a group that's a lot more visual. And so why would you not do everything you could do to make them what you want?
I think anyone with common sense knows what's happened.
Yeah.
If you don't accept it, then you're just delusional at this point, right? It's pretty obvious that they've had work, and that a lot of artists have had work. You'd have to be dumb to not accept this. The bigger issue is, why are people upset? Why does it upset? Why is there a stigma, and why are you upset? Right? Why are you upset? Because number one, the reason why people get surgeries is because of the demand. There would be no supply, there's no demand. Customers demand visual artists, correct?
They do.
So then companies provide visual artists, and sometimes that requires plastic surgery. So, but why is there a stigma? I can sort of understand why.
It's like they're trying to make the companies out to be the bad guys.
They wanna feel like a person is beautiful, but it's natural, because that's something special. That's rare. And yes, that would be more rare. But at the end of the day, you're getting a product. You're getting the product you wanted. So why are you complaining? Because it's not as rare as you thought it was? That's kind of immature for you.
Or they don't want people to point out, here's what happened, or here's what I've observed.
They are just supplying the thing that you're demanding. This idea that, well, if you weren't born that way, then you didn't work for it. I take issue with that. That is totally wrong. I would argue that being born beautiful is the least work there is. That's the laziest scenario, right? You're just born that way. That's wonderful and rare, but at the same time, you didn't have to do anything. Lisa had to have like 8 surgeries, like she detailed, right? Isn't that harder? Let's say you need somebody to build a building or a bridge. What do you need? You need an architect or an engineer. Would it be super rare and special and exceptional if somebody just came out of the womb with all the knowledge of an engineer or an architect and built this bridge for you? Yeah, that would be really crazy. That person would be some sort of genius, some sort of 1 in a billion genius, correct?
Like a child genius.
Yeah, like a Mozart. We would cherish that, and we would say, wow, that's so special. But at the same time, there's only so many of those people. You need a lot of bridges and buildings built. So what do? We have non-geniuses, non-special people go to college, learn how to be engineers and architects, work hard, and produce the product that you want. This is no different. You want a ton of visual K-pop artists. Only so many are just born that way. So what needs to happen? People who are not quite born that way to put in the work to become what you want.
Yeah, we're talking about people, and it's like, they're 13, 14 years old. These kids have like a lot of talent. They can sing, they can dance, they have like everything going for them, but then they may not be the most visual in the face. Yeah. And so it's like, well, that can be fixed. Like that's not something you can practice, like singing and dancing, but that's something that can be fixed with surgery.
Yeah, and why are we denigrating them for that? These people literally went under elective surgery to meet a demand that you have created. Now, do they get well paid for it? Yeah. In K-pop, not as well as in the West, but yeah, they get well paid for it. But it's work. If you don't think it's work, then why don't you go do 8 elective surgeries right now and see if it's pleasant for you? You'll wake up in pain, by the way. It's not pleasant to go under the knife for anything. It's not a shortcut. It's just like going to 8 years of school to become an engineer so your bridge doesn't fall down is not a shortcut.
So I think some people have the impression that every K-pop company has this like main president who's like ordering people, hey, you go get this surgery right now. You're hideous. You need to go do this. It's really more of like a trainee. They know where their shortcoming is and they're probably working with the company. It's like, what can I do or what should I do? It's
maybe in the West. I don't think that's the problem. Maybe in the West, the fan, that's the fan's problem. But in the East, I think the problem they have is they want to believe that they were born that way. They're special. And they are special, but they're special in that they're willing to put in all this work.
Yeah, I mean, the companies know that. That's why they say they have these policies, and that's why they never admit to
their
anything.
Their expectation is like, she's just naturally beautiful. Some fans in the West probably think, you shouldn't even have made them do that because they're beautiful like they are. I'm like, give me a break. Just list all your biases in all the groups. I have no doubt that it coincidentally correlates with the best looking people, right? And I bet you anything those people had work. It's just natural. People gravitate towards more attractive people. This is a business. They're selling a product.
I think on the other side too, like if there's an idol and they put them out there and they're not like the best looking person, like that person gets like ripped to shreds by netizens. So it's almost like you're like feeding them to the wolves almost. If they're like not an attractive person but they have a lot of talent, it's like they get destroyed online.
They do. Think about, like when Gio of Twice was overweight, she was a little chubby when
at the early parts of Twice.
Yeah, it just
fans are mean. They're gonna rip you apart.
So you can't on the one hand demand that people fit your visual concept and then also knock them for doing the work to fit that visual concept and saying, well, why weren't you just that way naturally? The demand originates from the customer. It didn't originate from the company. If the company can just put people as is out there and make the same amount of money, hey, I'm sure that they'd be fine with that. They would just put them out there. All they care about is making money, okay? It's the consumer that places those demands. And if you want people who are attractive, I'm not saying fans are bad or immoral for wanting attractive people. I want attractive artists as well. But I'm also not going to criticize them when they have procedures because they're meeting my demand. She got those procedures. Just look at her kid pictures. It's so obvious to me. But that's not what she looks like. Just so I mean, it is what she looks like now.
Yeah.
But that's not what she would have looked like if she didn't get into K-pop. This is a job like any other.
I just don't know why people criticize the K-pop stars for their surgeries when the majority of them, they got a really good job. Like it was pretty subtle changes and the end result is usually really good and like not super noticeable. Like whereas the Western celebrities that get it, it's like, whoa, that's obvious. Like what they got done.
That's true too. K-pop stars, it's pretty subtle usually.
You should appreciate that they use some artistry with their surgeries.
So yeah, that is a thing in K-pop. That's definitely a thing in K-pop, and that's my position. There should be no stigma whatsoever around plastic surgery. And that's the real problem. The problem is not this woman saying that Lisa got plastic surgery, because she did.
She's just
look at it.
Using her professional expertise to point out what she thinks happened.
You don't even need professional expertise. You just need eyes. Yes, she got it. The real problem is fans who think it's a bad thing that she got it. You're insulting her. She's not insulting her. That would be, that's like someone saying, you're a doctor, but only because you went to medical school. Is that an insult? Like, yeah, I went to medical school. That's why I'm a doctor. Correct. Think about the logic of that.
Right. But if I was an idol and I did get a bunch of plastic surgery, I wouldn't want people with these detailed videos out there, like explaining what you got done.
And,
But I mean, you can't stop that though. It's the internet.
And also, I don't think that idols are obligated. Some people say that, they're obligated to just reveal it because our self-esteem is hey, your self-esteem is on you. That's your business, okay? You're responsible for your own self-esteem.
Oh, they're saying like they're setting these unrealistic beauty
standards, things like that. Your self-esteem is your responsibility. That's my opinion, okay? If you have low self-esteem, then do what you got to do to not have low self-esteem. It's not somebody else's responsibility that you have low self-esteem. And I'm certainly not saying somebody should reveal their whole medical history so you, a stranger on the internet, has better self-esteem.
Yeah, no one ever has to disclose.
Yeah, you don't have to disclose your medical history, and this is medical history. Get out of here.
Yeah.
You deal with your own self-esteem.
It's more like the netizens should be aware of everything that could be done that these idols possibly and probably did have done.
That's not on them.
These are K-pop idols. Their job is to sing and dance and look good. So they're doing their job.
Yes. I know you may be impacted, your self-esteem or whatever, but hey, the information is out there. Look at this video.
There's some idols out there that they've decided they want to talk about it for whatever reasons, and that's totally their choice. Like Jessie was saying,
that's their right.
Here's
if
the
they want to
things
talk about it,
I got done. But don't think that everybody's going to disclose everything.
They don't owe you that. They just owe you a good product in the MVs. They just owe you a good singing performance. That's it. Certainly nobody owes you medical history because you're emotionally fragile.
And I feel like the female idols get a lot more scrutiny, even though I think it's just as many males get surgeries too, but they seem to like not be
the males get surgery.
Discussed or questioned as much. The double eyelid surgery is really common, and I think fixing noses is very common. So, but it seems like everybody focuses on which female K-pop stars got things done.
So anyway, yes, Lisa got work, but no, it's not a scandal. Also, don't send hate to this woman because she's just pointing out the obvious, really.
And I think the fact that this video got a lot of views, Lauryn Hill was saying that, okay, if this video gets at least 10,000 likes, then I'll do the rest of Blackpink, their videos. So it was already over 10,000 by the time I saw this video.
So she's going to come out with more.
Yeah, and I don't think she would say that if she didn't already have material on like all 4 of the Blackpink members. So probably she went with Lisa first because she probably had the most things done, but I think probably all of them had at least 1 or 2 things done each. So we'll see what happens with these other videos. So there was a recent situation which involved Heechul from Super Junior and a basketball player named Ha Seung Jin in a recent Twitch live stream. Ha Seung Jin, who is a former NBA basketball player. Okay, I didn't know that, but I thought he was just a basketball player, like over there in Korea.
He wasn't a notable one, though.
Oh, okay. Must be pretty tall.
Well, they all are.
In a recent Twitch stream, Ha Seung Jin recalled a drunken conversation he had with Heechul, and they're both friends. And he said that he knew Heechul was dating Momo, and then he joked about how there are memes of his alleged resemblance to Nayeon. So have you seen a picture of this basketball player? He looks nothing like Nayeon. But I think that netizens say that they look similar, that this basketball player looks similar to Nayeon as a way to make fun of the basketball player, because it's like, oh, I kind of see like, oh, it's similar eyes and mouth maybe, but like they don't look similar really. But yeah, I think that netizens are mean, and then they say that these two people look alike when they don't really. And so I guess he hates that there's memes out there by antis, and he mentioned that in his drunk live stream, and then that caused a lot of netizens to be upset, I guess. They thought that they're making fun of Nayeon when it's really not. It wasn't even about Nayeon, really. It's about how netizens are always comparing them, and he hates that because he doesn't want like Nayeon to be insulted by that comparison. So anyway, I guess it was something that he said while drunk, and then people that didn't get the context of it kind of blew it out of proportion, and then Heechul had to explain his side of the story and apologize and everything. But I just don't get how netizens, it's like they're always like tearing down everybody's looks, and then this guy, he just like brings up, oh, there's this meme going around that makes fun of me, and then he's the one who gets in trouble about it. It's just like such a double standard.
Well, I guess the controversy is he shouldn't have mentioned other people in his live stream, right?
Yeah, but I mean, this is gonna happen when there was some other idol who was doing a Twitch live stream and said some things he shouldn't have, but I guess this is just gonna happen when people do live streams and then they just start talking about whatever and private conversations they've had with other people. So I think that's was part of it, and I'm sure Heechul didn't appreciate that this was talked about, this private thing they joked about was put out there. He didn't seem to
appreciate it. Yeah, he didn't. He said he yelled at him, right?
Right. But I think this whole thing happened in the first place because netizens are mean, and then they're always like tearing people down with their looks and then their memes and everything.
Yeah, but this is the internet. This is the internet. So, if you just have to sort of get used to this sort of behavior on the internet. That's my view on it. Yeah, I don't think they look the same, but I'm pretty sure what they're referring to is their front teeth. They have like bunny teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's what people are referring to, I think. I didn't read into the story too deeply, but yeah, ideally don't talk about private conversations you've had with other celebrities. But how big of a sin is this? Come on, it's not really that bad. And like he said, I don't think they were speaking ill of anybody. They were just talking about some memes they saw online.
It's like the basketball player, he was like lamenting. It's like, why is this meme out there? It's like so unfavorable to me and brings Nyan into it. And it's not anything negative about Nyan, but how onces, how they can overreact to things. So
was it onces that were reacting to it?
Well, it just said netizens, but I mean, I can't imagine who else would care that much.
Right.
But I think they just made sure to delete the stream, and Heechul apologize right away and all this stuff to try to prevent this from being more of a big deal.
Well, what can I say? Don't stream drunk.
Yeah, be careful what you say.
Right.
On September 7th, there's some rumors about former Stray Kids member Woojin allegedly sexually harassing women at a bar. Someone created an account on Twitter that was totally anonymous, like they created it that day in order to talk about their experience of meeting Woojin somewhere and how he basically sexually harassed women there. The way they described it, it's like he was attempting to use his fame to pick up women, and then
not uncommon.
When they refused, he responded by getting angry. This person said they were in a bar in Korea, and then he went up to this girl, I'm assuming it's a girl, this girl and her friend, and was trying to name drop a lot and saying he's famous. It said he tried to persist and touch our bodies without our permission. And it says, my friend and I were not too drunk, so we could tell him we were not going anywhere and we have our relationships already. But then he was angry. And then he put his hands on both my friend's ass and on mine and tried to insist that we should do something with him. So that was their allegations. And this was on Twitter, and I saw the actual tweets, so I don't know if it's deleted by now or whatever. But he kind of denied all of that, and he said it was a rumor and that he never met that person, and he didn't go to where they said he was at.
Okay, so a total denial.
Yeah, and he said he plans to take legal action against people spreading the rumors, and also his label was also denying it too, and then they were giving evidence that he supposedly was at home when this incident happened, and so that's supposed to prove that he didn't do it. So I don't know how they know that for sure, but
well, first of all, this type of thing is believable. I could totally see something like this happening. Celebrities, they get drunk. I could see a guy just saying some drunk, stupid stuff like this. Yeah, that could happen. But at the same time, this person, you just create an anonymous account and you make some accusations. How much stock are we supposed to put in this?
It's really hard to validate.
I feel like even writing an article about it is sort of irresponsible. You're not even putting your name behind an accusation. We should not take that accusation seriously. That's my opinion. I can get online and create an anonymous account and say any number of things.
Right.
Should people be put in a position where they have to, quote unquote, prove they were at home that night? What if they weren't at home that night?
Yeah.
Does that mean they were guilty of my random anonymous Twitter accusation?
Like,
No,
he
it
may-
doesn't mean that at all.
He may have even been at that bar that day, but that
Right.
doesn't mean for a fact he harassed anybody.
And even if you had your name behind it, it doesn't prove it either. But for God's sakes, if you're not even putting your name behind the accusation, then I kind of feel like it should not even be dignified as a story.
Yeah, I just don't know what.
You can make random Twitter. Here's a random Twitter accusation. Whatever. Hillary Clinton is a cannibal. There you go. I just create an account and just say that.
Just like, I saw her eating.
Does anyone even have to dignify that with a response? No, they shouldn't have to dignify that response. When did it happen? Who are you? Who else was there? Will you say this under oath? These are all important questions as to whether we are even going to take your accusations seriously. So if it doesn't even reach the first threshold of you put your real name behind the accusation, I don't think we should take it seriously. You know, I totally believe it could happen, by the way, but I'm also not going to take seriously an accusation is made anonymously.
Yeah, I'm not going to hear an anonymous account and then, now I'm going to send some like hate messages to Woojin based on that.
An anonymous account means nothing to me. Do you know how many anonymous accusations and things that happen online in the internet on Earth every day? Can you even imagine? So many. Now, maybe it's fun to read things like blind items and things like that. Like, oh yeah, did that person? Oh, maybe. In the back of your mind, you're thinking that, right? But that person doesn't have to respond to it. There's no basis for that accusation. It would be wrong to even ask that person to respond to such an accusation. It's anonymous.
Well, do you think he shouldn't have responded to it, and because that like somewhat validates what the person was saying? By giving all this evidence, like, well, I was home this day and I wasn't even at that bar and I don't know who this person is and never met them. Like, do you think that he's kind of putting up too much of a defense? Like, not that proves anything, but maybe he should have just ignored the whole thing.
Depends on how big the thread was. I didn't see.
Yeah, it's hard.
Was it a big thread?
It's hard because stuff like this can like get out of control and then everybody starts believing that person. So maybe he felt like, well, I need to shut down this rumor right away.
In general, I don't think that an anonymous accusation should be dignified with any kind of response.
Yeah, there's not much we can do with information from just an anonymous source.
We can't operate in a society where an anonymous accusation on Twitter is treated with any seriousness. We just cannot, because that opens the door to just nonsense.
Yeah, I mean, you shouldn't let rumors destroy people. Like, at least there has to be some kind of evidence or some kind of
What is this person's
some
name?
kind of due process.
They come out? Have they come out? Have they put in some sort of complaint with proper authorities?
There needs to be due process. So this person needs to file a complaint. It could be someone is trying to take him down for whatever reason. Someone has a grudge against him or whatever, and it could be just totally a made-up story. It could also be true, but it's like we have no evidence of anything.
Correct. And if it's true and you want people to know bad enough, then I'm sorry. You have to put your name behind it. Then it's just too easy for people to just levy accusations from anywhere, right? You can't live in a world like that.
There's a recent video by GQ where BTS was asked about who their style heroes were. Jin said he's his own style hero.
Oh.
That was a good Jin answer. He said, wear what you want and what feels comfortable, and don't worry about what other people think. It's like, that's good philosophy, but I don't know what that means as far as what clothes he wears.
Well, I'm my own style hero.
Well, that's good. Do you have anything you model it after, or you just think, is there parameters on that?
I do have something I model it after. You remember Talented Mr. Ripley?
Mm-hmm.
I model it after that.
Okay,
I want to dress like a very rich person from 1950s vacationing in Italy.
That's a good aesthetic.
Yeah, that's I wanna look like I'm like a trust fund kid vacationing in Italy. And spoilers, but I get murdered there too.
Very good movie that I think is underrated.
Very underrated film. We won't go into it now, but very underrated film.
Yes.
It's an old. Check it out if you want. It's an old film. It's like 20 years old now.
Yes, it has Jude Law and Matt Damon and Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yep.
I'm sure you know those names, so probably haven't seen this movie if you're listening to this podcast. Probably it's underrated.
It's probably the same age as you.
Right. So Jin said he's his own style hero. From what I could tell, he doesn't have any like particular style. It just seems very like clean lines and classic. But that's good. I mean, he never wears anything where I'm like, what the hell is that? So I think he has a good sense of style then. Then J-Hope said his style hero is Snoopy. And I think what he was trying to say with that is find a fun way to express yourself. And he tends to wear like a lot of different colors and patterns and trendy kind of clothes. So I think he likes to try different things each season. So I think that was what he was trying to convey with that. Although I don't know how Snoopy dresses. Like Snoopy doesn't wear clothes. So I don't know how that's a style hero. So then Suga said his style hero is Dark Knight Batman. So I think that was really specific. And he's saying, so Dark Knight, that was when it was Christian Bale, Batman. So I think that's important. So no one thinks he was talking about Ben Affleck Batman, the worst Batman ever.
He is.
So he wasn't talking about that. He was saying Christian Bale, Batman. But he didn't really say anything about the style portion of it. He just said, oh, he likes that he's a superhero, but he's actually a weak human who doesn't have any powers. So I think it's more he likes the idea of Batman.
I see.
I don't know what style he normally wears, Suga, so I don't know what that means, how he applies Dark Knight Batman to his style. But I don't know. I think sometimes they just give like whatever the first answer is they thought of, and it doesn't have to make sense. I'm sure they've done like a million interviews related to Dynamite and everything.
Think about how many questions they've answered. And
yeah.
Someone comes up with this, right?
Yeah. And then Jimin's answer for his style hero, he said Army. And Army inspires every aspect of his life. And that's the reason for everything, why they're successful. I was like, okay, there's no way he's inspired by like the average fan out there. That's nice that he said that. I'm sure he's just trying to be nice. There's no way. Like, he has some kind of style inspiration, and I don't think it's Army. Like, the average fan, like, what even is their style? Whatever his actual style hero is, I don't think he wanted to say. He was just like, well, I'll just say Army. That's like a good answer for like any question. And then Jungkook said his style hero is RM. We do know from many stories that they've told is that Jungkook joined BTS pretty much only because he met RM and was like so impressed by him. So I could see why he could say that answer. That's someone he learns a lot from. I don't know if he gets any of his like fashion from him, but Jungkook is, we all see pictures of him and his style seems to be just wearing a lot of black. So I don't know how that's inspired by RM, but I guess he just wanted to give a nice answer and compliment RM with that. And then RM said his style heroes are painters Wonky Kim and Yun Hyun Kyun. I don't really understand that answer, but I guess their style that these painters have is about attitude and to just try different things and wear things that are comfortable. So I don't know how that relates to painters and how that answer made sense.
Right.
And then V said his style hero is his dad. His dad had a clothing business, and V looked up to him and thought he was very stylish and well-dressed, and that's why that's his style hero. So that one at least makes sense. It's like, oh, someone that I admired growing up, so that's what he models his style after. But I'm sure in reality they all have people that they're inspired by, or they have stylists and they have access to like the best clothes.
Oh, by the way, from last week, I was too drunk, so I knew this information, but I didn't say it at the time. But remember, you asked, what's the difference between vinyl and digital? So I didn't explain it, but let me give a quick explanation. So basically, the question was, why do people think vinyl sounds better than digital?
Yeah.
The reason why is because the way vinyl works is the needle is in the groove, and based on the groove pattern, it will relay a music that's played. But the groove is continuous. It's analog. It's continuous. It has no break in it, right? In vinyl, at least. Whereas in digital, it simulates it by showing you data, bits of information, like here's a note, and then here's the next note. But there's a space in between. So technically, whatever is playing the music doesn't know what sound to be playing in between these two bits of data. It doesn't know. There's no such thing as continuous data, correct? It's 1 0 0 1 1 1 0 0 0 0 1, etc., right? That's data. It's discrete. Some people think that, well, since it's not continuous, it doesn't have that same flow, right? It's technically broken up. It is technically broken up. It'll say, play this note and then play that note. But that's two discrete instructions. Whereas that's not the case with vinyl. It's one continuous.
Oh, okay.
Right? One
And
continuous,
our
like this
ears
note into that note into that note, right?
So for a CD, our ears are just putting it all together.
We're just putting it all together. Just like when you see like a flip book where
Yeah.
they do drawings and then you flip through it and it looks like a cartoon or something.
Yeah, it looks like it's animated.
Yeah, it looks like it's animated. And if there's more pages and you flip really fast, it looks it looks smoother, right? Mm-hmm. And that's also the way it is when you do a movie. A movie is discrete little panels where there's a certain number of frames per second.
Right.
And it looks like you're seeing a smooth animation. And the more frames, the smoother it is. Right?
A movie is all still pictures.
Right.
Just
And movies, by the way, don't have very many frames. They have 24. So it doesn't look that smooth, honestly. Vinyl is the smoothest because it's actually continuous. But here's the problem. Just like with movies, just like when you're watching video, the human senses can only sense so much. At some point, if there are enough individual if there are enough frames, it looks like a smooth picture to us. Technically, you're seeing 120 little pictures every second, but your eyes interpret it as, oh, I'm just looking at the person walking around. You're not able to interpret the fact that, oh yeah, it's, maybe if you're a robot. But that is the argument for why people think that vinyl is better. Because it is technically a continuous representation of that music. Whereas when you listen to it digitally, it is not a continuous representation. It's this sound, and then that sound, and then that sound. And they just have so many of them packed into a second that it sounds continuous to you, but it technically is not.
What about a cassette tape?
I don't know about that. Please don't ask these questions. I only know the vinyl versus the digital.
Okay.
I think cassette tape is closer to vinyl.
Right.
I think.
Because it's like a magnetic tape that's continuous. So.
Yeah, I think it's closer to vinyl. But, I'm not going to explain. So that's why they think it's better, but I think it's total bunk, you know?
I think our ears aren't that sophisticated.
Yeah, we're not
anyway.
that sophisticated to be able to tell. When you're watching a movie or when you're watching video on your YouTube or whatever, are you like, man, I wish this was a continuous picture and not 120 different pictures a second being fed to me? No, you don't think that. You think you're watching a continuous video, right?
Like humans don't have great hearing anyway.
Yeah.
It's like if we were
we're not able to
dogs
parse that.
or one of these other animals that has very heightened hearing,
Right.
maybe you could hear a difference, but I don't think we hear a difference.
No. So I don't buy into that hipster logic that vinyl is better at all.
Oh, that's very helpful.
Yes. When you're listening to music, do you hear 120 discrete things per second? No, you don't. You hear a couple notes in a second and it sounds continuous to you. You've never listened to a song on Spotify and thought, man, that didn't sound very continuous, did it? No. In fact, this is probably the first time you even learned that you're not listening to continuous sound.
And I don't even think vinyl is making a comeback, really. It's just that companies are realizing if I want to sell this song, you can only buy it on iTunes once. And so we need to make fans buy it on vinyl, on cassette, on different mediums so that we can sell it multiple times to the same fan. And so I don't think that's like the demand is like fans are like, oh, I want vinyl because it sounds so great.
Right.
I think it's just these record companies are realizing that's a way to boost sales. And because it's like I noticed that Taylor Swift had Folklore. She had a bunch of different vinyls as well, and she did kind of a similar thing that BTS did with Dynamite. I was like, why does everybody have vinyls all of a sudden? It's just a way to increase
gimmick.
sales.
Yeah, it's just a gimmick. It's
like a souvenir
thing. I mean, even selling CDs, nobody listens to CDs. Mm-hmm. So think about the logic of buying a CD. You just support your artist to get some kind of souvenir, some cool thing that you can say, look, I bought my artist's product. Well, vinyl's cooler. And it has more cachet. It's like, look at this vinyl.
It does look cooler. It's like you get this big square.
Right, you get a bigger square. Yeah, you get a bigger square.
Big picture.
You could maybe mount it or put it on the wall. I don't know.
Yeah, it looks cooler on your shelf.
Right, so in that way it makes sense. And push comes to shove, if you really gosh, if you had a turntable and you were able to play it, I guess, technically you're getting a different product. Because when you're getting a CD, the product is no different than high quality stream or high quality digital copy of the song, right? But if you have the vinyl, even though we just made the argument that you're not going to be able to tell the difference, it technically is different. It's analog. So you technically have a different product.
It is better. It's just, can you hear that it's better?
Yes. Maybe if you were some superhuman robot or a bat or some thing that can hear
an alien
the distinction,
with amazing hearing,
right? Then maybe you would listen to vinyl and say, "Oh yeah, that sounds great. That's music." And then when they listen to our digital music, they'll say, "What is this garbage? It just sounds like little bits." And it would sound like it's skipping constantly, right? It would sound like it's like, here's a note, and then there's a note, and it has all these gaps in between.
Oh man!
But we don't hear that because we can't discern that.
That sucks to be that person. It's like, oh, everything sounds terrible unless I'm listening to a record.
Correct. If you're an animal or some kind of alien, I suppose maybe it would sound that way. But as far as all human beings, no, it sounds the same. And just like if you were, I don't know, if you were the Flash, then looking at a movie that had 24 frames per second would probably be torture. You're like, oh, here's the frame. Oh, here's the next frame. It doesn't seem like continuous movement, right? Mm-hmm. Although the Flash probably, nothing could be good for him because he would see every little frame.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. If we can't discern the frames, then so what? It is just as good as continuous movement. That is what they should sell. Nobody's listening to a CD.
Yeah, definitely those are not being used.
No.
But I could see people playing the vinyl just for novelty. It's like, well, let me just see what this sounds like.
I can't even see that. Who has a turntable?
Yeah, I don't know. Not you
My mom has one.
You have to have a really old one, like a legit one,
right.
Or there's some new ones that are for like people
my mom has one.
Thank you to our guest, Morgan. You can find BTS Happy Hour on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Podbean, Castbox, iHeartRadio, Deezer, Listen Notes, and YouTube. New episodes weekly. If you want to support the podcast, please comment and share on social media, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, or give us a rating on your podcast app. Follow BTS Happy Hour on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Until next time, this has been the BTS Happy Hour. Thanks for listening, and remember, make every hour a happy one.